Nissan Sugarbelt 400 moved back to the outskirts of Pietermaritzburg, the capital of KwaZulu-Natal. This fine city, which is home to the world-famous Comrades Marathon, which is annually run between Durban and Maritzburg, was ready. Just outside the hustle of the city centre lies Eston, in the heart of the sugarcane fields. And it was here the round 3 of the 2008 ABSA Off-Road Championship was scheduled to get going. It's an area known for great and testing layouts, which asks man and machine all the tough questions about technique and reliability. Winning here is sweet, and that's what at least a dozen teams have their hearts, minds and expertise set on. I'm Arnold Getz, and I'm joined by fellow commentator Roald Woods.
Thank you, Arnold. The third of 8 races in the series this part of the season becomes defining for teams, as the early teething problem should have been sorted by now, and the car driver and navigator as well as mechanical combination should have gelled by now and started delivering the results. So the Nissan Sugarbelt 400 was crunch time for a lot of teams.
Nissan won the pipe opener in the Western Cape with defending champ Duncan Foss, but they were flipped in rally-like conditions in Port Elizabeth 4 weeks later by Toyota. They were hoping to get back on top, while Ford were on home soil.
Setting the pace at the top of the production car log, it was indeed Mark Cronier and Chris Birkin, while Foss and his co-pilot Ralph Pitchford were just 2 points back. In fact, just 16 points separated the top 6, and that group included 4 former champions.
Yeah, look, I think we had an awesome result. I mean, the team's been really working hard towards that, and I don't know. The pressure's all relevant. I mean, I've grown up with it, so if it wasn't for the pressure, I don't think I'd be here.
So this is one of the tougher events on the calendar.
Yeah, look, I've had a couple of good results here, and that's, to me, one of the toughest events of the year. I find that it's very deceptive, you know, that it starts off fairly smooth and flowing, and the next minute it's got a bit of a sting in the tail. But we'll see how it goes. We'll wait and see what the prologue's like, and let's see where that sees us.
Meanwhile, Nissan's Francois Jordan was in with the Norwegian Ivar Tollefsen.
My Norwegian is fine. We're actually going to do Swahili and Afrikaans this race, so we'll both look forward to it.
But this was a short sabbatical for you, not so?
Man, a sabbatical as long as you want to make it. But I'm only standing for Ivar's regular navigator. As you know, his wife has got a baby coming, and I'm only a stand-in. I'm not doing the rest of the season.
The Sugarbelt is a tough event, though.
I've always enjoyed the Sugarbelt because it is a tough event. It's got something of everything. You've got to be very sharp on both sides, both driving and navigating. You've got to preserve the car. And just when you think all is there in the pocket, you've got a big surprise coming towards the end normally. It's a wonderful event.
In the Ford camp, there was an air of optimism. After all, it was a good start.
We have. As you know, last year we didn't have a good start at all, so this year it's starting off well. We had a third in Cape Town and a second down in PE, so maybe a win here. But I must say I'm feeling the pressure a bit, because everywhere you read it, we're the favourites and it's home turf, and so there is a bit of pressure. But yeah, it's my favourite race of the year. I've kind of like grown up in these surroundings, not on this side of town, but I know the area well. I like this type of terrain, and of course with all the fans and friends and everybody coming to watch, it's fantastic.
So it's really a special event for you?
The best event for me of the year. It is a special event because your family comes, your friends are all here, and it's just great to see all the people, you know. And I also think it's one of the best events of the year. It's a huge public following that come to this event, so yeah, it's a special event.
For the folks in and around Eston, it's really a community project.
Definitely, you know, all the farmers, it's an old farming area. The guys that have been here a long, long time, and farms have been handed over during the generations, and off-road racing almost started in this area. So for the Eston community and this whole area, off-roading sort of in their blood.
Track racer Anthony Taylor was back in off-road racing in Eston in a Toyota.
Been through them all, and you know, my career really started out in motocross. So you know, the taste of dirt, once you had it as a youngster, you'll just never be able to let go of it. So yeah, I'm very happy to be back involved with Toyota once again, and again in the works team with the off-road vehicles. I think we're going to be in for quite a nice time. You know, it's a whole new learning curve yet again. I've done a bit of off-road previously, but it wasn't very successful because the vehicle that we built was a little bit trying to reinvent the wheel. But yeah, I think it's going to be quite good. We'll wait and see what happens.
The brothers Zamatin, Henry and Maurice, were ready to put last year behind them permanently.
Yeah, we had a terrible run last year, so this year we're hoping that it's a
clean run right the way through the season. You know, you need to, especially in the early races, you need to consolidate your points, make sure you've got some in the bag, not have too many DNFs, so that by the end of the year it's not this dogfight that it was the year before.
Back in Eston again, and this can be a very technical route. Your thoughts?
I must admit, I enjoyed Shishluwi very much. There's no such thing as a bad off-road route. They're all lovely. Just varying terrain is nice. I think the last race we did down in the Eastern Cape was a bit much of the same, you know, just corners followed by corners. This is nice and rough. It's technical, has good scenery, it's nice weather, it's lovely.
In the special vehicle category, there was no love lost though. Terence Marsh and Peter Groenewald in the Regent Racing Bat were atop a pile of serious chasers, led by the Sugarbelts, Cully and Quinton. An intriguing contest was in the offing.
Yeah, look, a good start of the season, which just put us in a nice position moving forward. This event is a tough event. We know the attrition rate is high here, you know, going from the sugarcane to the normal off-road and into the forests. So, you know, we'll be aggressive in qualifying, and thereafter we'll see how it pans out. But to be honest with you, just to finish up there will be good enough for us in this one. I don't need to be too aggressive.
For Quinton Sewald, Eston was a new experience.
It's a new experience, but always fun coming to a new event and experiencing new things. So looking very much forward to participating. No particular strategy, just getting to the finish once again. And once you're at the finish, we see where we lie, and that's pretty much what we're going to try and do for the race.
The start of the 65-kilometre long prologue to determine start positions for the next day's racing over 350 Ks. And previous round winner Marc Cronier did the honours.
And made quite a splash.
While Force wasn't letting the grass grow under his wheels either.
Multiple motorsport champion Nissan stalwart Hannes Grobler and his navigator Jean Moore in the Nissan Navara were, in their own words, taking it easy and wanted to ensure that they weren't first on the road the next day due to the fact that the route would be very slippery.
As for the local outfit, Maritzburg-based Neil Woolridge and Kenny Schulthammer in the Ford Ranger, well, they had the bit between their teeth and were battling along quickly and very effectively.
But would local knowledge be a winning factor for them? That was the big question.
Tollefson in the next Navara had a new partner. But as always, the multiple champion Francois Jordan was superb. The Norwegian was also flying.
The Mickelin Excel dealer team of Hichu and Jaap de Bruin were next.
But they were almost 2 minutes down on the pace-setting exploits of their fellow Toyota driver, Cronier.
With another Castrol Toyota Hilux 4-litre zooming into view.
But Arnie, look closely. Chris Visser and Javi Bardenost have had a sugar rush. Check out the decorations draped all over the car.
Their blood sugar
and adrenaline levels,
thanks, was up for sure.
The 2- and 4-wheel multiple champion Alfie Cox in the Motorite SP was also in the thick of things, but down on the intermediate times by about 2 minutes.
But Alfie and Henny Terstegen know how to coax a car around. No one wrote them off yet.
The next SP car interview was that of Mark Ferguson and Craig West in the second Ford Ranger.
They've been improving in leaps and bounds.
And so's the Ford too. Look at it bounding along.
Ha ha. And rounding out the top 10, it was the Barkhuizens.
You mean George and Sharon, who pushed that Rubicon Toyota Hilux and their marital status to the limit.
Yep, one and only couple. They make a formidable combination, that's for sure.
With newcomer Anthony Taylor in car with navigator Robin Houghton in the third Castrol Toyota Hilux, feeling his way round.
Taylor has a track pedigree second to none, but this was not the blacktop.
Here you need to keep things on track though.
You are on a roll. In Class D, there was a huge battle on the Brood.
Coetzee Labuschagne and Johan Gerber had the Raceonics Nissan hardbody yodeling along.
But Cliffy Weichelt and Jimmy Goch in the N1 4x4 Toyota were just 19 seconds behind them.
Class D was on fire.
Luckily for Jack Peckham and Lucio Santoro, there was a little less pressure.
They had almost 5 minutes on their nearest competition in their Ford Ranger.
Ditto for the Zamatin siblings Henry and Maurice. They had a big gap over the next Class D car in third place on the road in the prologue for the Nissan Sugarbelt 400.
This was Peckham and Santoro's nearest markers in Class E. Yanni Visser and Joks Leroux, 4 minutes and 45 seconds down.
And Eastern Cape winners Diebold van Breda with Piermonts rounded out the top 3 in Class E,
with Rob Gurney and Paul Gonlag in fourth.
But only 66 seconds further back, applying the pressure.
But in the production car class, it was a very tight prologue win for Eastern Cape victor Mark Cronier and Chris Birkin, who were home and almost dry. Just 3 ticks of the clock ahead of the Western Cape winner, Duncan Foss and Ralph Pitchford.
Krobler and Moore a further 56 seconds in arrears.
In the special vehicle category, Gary Berthold and Andre Vermeulen were ready to take off,
with their big turquoise Atlas Copco Porter ready for any and all eventualities.
And the surprise drive of the Sugarbelt's opening day was Don and Don.
That's Thompson and Blakey in their Zarko.
Yes, Arnie, please take note, this is a Class P car, and it was 13 seconds ahead of the next Class A car.
A superb ride from the two Dons.
With championship chasers Herman Silvold and Paul Helberg in their Silvold Zarko Magnum in third, just 17 seconds behind.
How tight was the special category racing in the prologue?
And this confirms it. SA champion Evan Hutchison and Achim Bergman were back after their horrendous crash in Bern and Darling, and they were in turn... Oh, come on, Arnie, do the honors.
Thanks, Roll. Just 21 seconds back.
But in fourth place.
And in fifth, Nardis Alberts and Colin Hunter in the red Rapsa bat.
This time, I'll handle the stopwatch. They were 39 seconds behind Berthold and Vermeulen.
Thank you. The Silwald combination, Father Cully and son Quinton, were 53 seconds behind in their Silwald Transport Zarko.
And then with Marsh and Peter Groenewald keeping their word and taking it relatively easy in the prologue over 65 Ks.
They were 61 seconds back in 7th place.
Second in the P class, it was brothers Johan and Etienne Bezuidenhout in their Adenko bat.
Then Marcus Taylor and Derek Keith shot into view. They were being chased by Jan Kraai and Tiro Vogt in the Kemax Property Development's bat. Class B was also on fire.
But Arnie, there was drama for Brandon Harkis and Richard Leake in the second motorized bat in the sugarcane.
They parked it in a no parking zone.
And upside down too.
Started about 16 Ks ago. We're doing really nicely. We picked up some time on the front cars and came off a jump and seemed to land on either a rock or a stake sticking out of the ground and gone straight through the tread. Anyway, we tried to carry on going, and eventually the tyre exploded, and I think when it exploded it took one of the brake lines out at the rear or damaged it slightly. So by the time we got going again, we're coming down this hill here quite a pace, and the next minute I put the brakes on and just flicked the car left and right like violently. And I said to Richard, no, we got to go into the sugarcane dead straight here, and we tried to do that, and then as we got sort of halfway into the corner, just flicked it sideways again. We landed up going in the sugarcane sideways and over on its side, but there's no damage to the car. It's just a pity, you know, when you know you've got a pole position, and to give it away like that at the end is not ideal.
Harkis just a little raw, perhaps.
Meanwhile, Gary Gillingham and his nav VZ van Zyl in their Shell bat were clipping along nicely in Class A when they had mechanical dramas which stopped them in their tracks.
Going very well. Came to the Marshall point, pulled off, gearbox went. We don't know what has gone in the box. We'll take it out now at the pits and have a look and see if we can fix it, and hopefully we can race tomorrow.
So the top 10 in the specials, an amazing performance from Thompson and Blakey, but here's the thing.
Only 3 minutes and 27 seconds covered the top 10.
Tough, uncompromising racing.
Vehicle and asset finance from ABSA, going the extra mile to get you finance. Finance from ABSA, going off the beaten track to find solutions.
The Aston area outside Pietermaritzburg in KwaZulu-Natal had just quietened down after the Nissan Sugarbelt 400 prologue. Then the post-mortem started.
The pace is going to be hectic, you know. I just see on all the times now. I thought, yeah, we had a good time today. We did quite a brisk pace. And, yeah, the other guys were just going faster and maybe taking a little bit more chances, you know. It's still a long way tomorrow, and I think at the moment we're lying third, and I think that's a good place to lie with the new times that we're starting a minute apart, you know. You can creep up from the back and the guy in front of you won't know it, and then you beat him at the end by not even coming here first.
Ford had very little to do in the pits, and Schulthammer enjoyed himself.
It was pretty nice. It was a bit of everything. Very dusty. We caught up to Elfie, but no, it was a nice route, different, new, not everything what we've done before, which was quite nice. The last 10 k's was exactly what but that's going to be the common route tomorrow. So it was nice. We had a few little high flyers, but it was good.
Cox was all smiles, but his memory had left him in the lurch. The route made it jump back.
Look, it's great to be back at the Sugarbelt again, but we always forget about the millions of jumps that are out there. And, you know, Sugarbelt's notorious for the rain trenches that they use for the forest, you know, to take the rain, the water. And I think we must have done about 60 or 100 of them now in the time trial. But I had a good time trial, but times are not what I'd like them to be. But tomorrow's a long day, and I think I'm just being a bit too cautious in this new SP that I'm driving.
Well, Cronje certainly wasn't, and loved it.
Yeah, we had a nice clean run. It was a tricky prologue. The first bit was very, very fast, and I was really enjoying it. And then all of a sudden, a nice sting in the tail. This thing just started getting tight and twisty and rough. And yeah, I'd had to just take the edge off. So we'll have to wait and see what the times look like. But yeah, I'm hoping that we did enough to get it to the top.
In Class E, championship contenders Thomas Rundle and Brian Roberts hadn't gone far when the earth hit right back.
Yeah, no, this is really disappointing. 14 k's in, we hit a bump really hard, and I immediately felt that we broke something in the front. And on further inspection, we've seen we've actually cracked the whole part of this top shock mount, right, you know, chassis right out of the body. So yeah, I don't know. We're going to try and fix it. Obviously, we will fix it. Try again tomorrow.
Let's hope they do. Berthold and Vermeulen had a good day in the office.
Yes, we had quite a nice approach today. We thought we'd just take it easy, make sure we bring the car home, and in so doing, we managed to put it in pole for the specials, which is nice. We're fairly used to being in this position. Hopefully we can hold it there for the duration of the race tomorrow.
And that's the trick. The second place crew had dust trouble.
Today was very difficult in the sense that there was a lot of dust hanging, and there was no wind. So hopefully, if it stays like this, the guys coming from behind will have a problem with the dust. So for me, I think we need to tap off a little bit. And yeah, and see how it goes, and keep the car together and bring it back to the end.
The prologue route caught out many a driver and navigator, leaving them bruised and battered.
Very eventful. It was a bit of a hard day in the office. We made some good time in the first 30 k's, and then we went over a blind rise. The road went to the left, and we went straight over, and we got stuck there for about 30 minutes. Yeah, we were very tired after getting the car out of there, but we made it home. There's lots of cars out there, broken down, rolled. We made it here. I'm looking forward to tomorrow.
When that tomorrow dawned, it was another perfect KwaZulu-Natal day in the Midlands.
And the teams, cars and support crews were ready.
How did you find that right turn over there?
Well, I looked up and there it was.
The farming community loves this once-a-year gathering.
And the opportunity to rub shoulders with their off-road heroes.
Finally, though, it was 8 o'clock and time for Cronje and Birkin to saddle up and hit the road.
And a minute behind them, allowing for dust gaps, it was Voss and Pitchford.
Krobler and Moore, only racing together for the third time ever, were getting the combination right. They were just 54 seconds behind.
Cronje and Birkin were looking for two on the trot and were soon into their stride.
But they had a misfire and it was affecting their pace.
Oh, Now this gave Force the opportunity to slip, slide, jostle and bounce right up close.
The defending champion was ripping up the ground and the opposition.
While Grobler knew the pressure was on, and the 51-year-old celebrating his 31st year in motorsport had to produce.
Again, actually.
Under leaden and darkening skies, Schulthammer directed Woolridge around the early parts of the first loop, and the Ford Ranger was sounding great.
And the local knowledge wasn't hurting either, it seemed.
But there was drama for Cronje and Birkin up front.
They'd done one of their tyres a mishap and had to stop and change.
And that meant that the Nissans were gaining on them. Tollefson and Jordan were eating up the terra firma and moved up a place.
And so did the De Bruins in their Toyota.
With Chris Visser and Jaap Badenhorst trying to be quick, but to stay out of trouble all the same.
With all the early drama going on, Berthold and Vermeulen were under starters' orders and went slip-sliding away.
The two Dons were next and were hoping to repeat their great form from the opening day during the two long loops of almost 350 kilometers that lay ahead.
But they would really have needed to perform miracles. There were a lot of big-name teams ready to take them down.
Including these lads, Hutchison and Bergman in their silver and black motorized bat Spec 3, which they had to rebuild after the first edition burned to cinders.
These men, meanwhile, had burning ambitions.
Alberts and Hunter on fire and pushing the Rapsa bat all the way.
With Herman Silwalt and Paul Hellberg in fifth in the specials and trying to temper the natural instincts to want to go fast, and on the other hand, conserving the car to ensure a finish.
Let's go in-car now with West and Ferguson Ford.
And that's Grobler and Moore off the road. They'd broken a lower ball joint after hitting a rock.
The question was, how much time would they lose trying to fashion some sort of repair?
Indeed, but no troubles like that early on for young Cry. He won 6 races out of 8 last season, but in Class B, he's the master at pacing.
And in Class D, the Race Sonics outfit was still just 19 seconds ahead of the competition after the first 10 Ks worth of racing.
In Class E, Peckham and Santoro were setting the pace and still had almost 5 minutes over their nearest competitors.
Yeah, but there's no doubt about it, Arnie. Force and Pitchford were having a banner day.
Well, the fitness fanatic who does such a fine job for the Japanese manufacturers was hunting for win number 2 in just 3 outings.
Yep, and with local lads Woolridge and Schulthammer slotting into second after going by Cronje and then Grobler.
The Nissan Sugarbelt has had a severe shake-up in the first few Ks.
Then into the more mountainous terrain, and here's where Ivar Tollefson and his stand-in co-driver Francois Jordan came into their own.
Meanwhile, Cronje and Birkin were scrambling in the Castrol Toyota.
Yes, they were, and almost collected an intrepid photographer when they wrong-slotted here.
With all the position changes, the Micra and Excel dealer team Toyota, the De Bruins, was up into 4th and making a fist of it too.
Yeah, while Berthold, who has become something of a prologue specialist, wanted to finish this one in front of the specials.
He would have loved nothing more.
Silwalt and Hellberg were next into view and had closed the gap on the leaders and passed Thompson and Blakely in the process.
That was really a great start. But the same could not be said for Hutchison and Bergman, who had steering shaft trouble and were just holding her back a bit.
Alberts and Hunter hadn't tasted victory for a while and were ready for a reminder. But first, they had to get to the designated service point and close some gaps.
That 6-litre Chev engine does sound mean, though.
Alfie Cox and Henny Tersteega bustled by the next only Motorite SP entry after having to repair a flat early on.
With the men in second place on the ABSA Championship log, the Sugarbelts down a few places after having got stuck in the sugarcane themselves.
The two Dons were still firmly ensconced in the top 10 specials, and they were having a great first loop.
Not even one Class P car within shouting distance, actually.
Then former champion Terence Marsh, consistent, smooth, and patient.
And guess what? Nothing's changed.
The Regent Racing man was doing what he's done all his career, working the car and the route well.
His teammates Michael Whitehouse and Matthew Carson had however closed the gap on him, and after starting 9th, had moved up one place already.
And Visser and Badenhorst in their Castrol Toyota had got it going nicely.
Ferguson and West sped by in 7th place, doing the Ford cause no harm whatsoever.
Yeah, but then Visser got it stuck in the sugarcane.
Luckily, stablemates Taylor and Houghton were on hand to pull them out just a little later. Meanwhile, Moore and Klaassen in their Free Spirit Chev were also going hell for leather and doing a great job.
The Adenko bat in the hands of the Bezuidenhout's was holding station in second in Class P.
But Ferguson and West in the Ford Ranger were catching up and pushing hard.
Yeah, perhaps a little too hard, and whoa, there you go, over she goes.
Luckily, no serious harm done, just a bruised ego or two.
Taylor, a national title winner as a tender teenager, was certainly enjoying his first serious off-road outing for Castrol and Toyota.
And went past the stricken Ford Ranger after getting a thumbs up from Ferguson and West.
Yeah, who weren't over too long before they got all 4 bits of rubber back on terra firma, thank goodness.
It had rained the night before and some parts of the route was rather getting slippery, but Bez Bezuidenhout and Johan de Bruin were going very well.
With Cry and Furch closing the gap all the time to the men in front of them.
They were 4 places to the better already.
And Coetzee Labuschagne and Johan Gerber were doing much the same in Class D.
Keeping the pace and the pressure on in the lead.
Peckham and Santoro themselves had jumped a massive 9 places overall and were 66 seconds ahead in Class E.
With Cliff Weichelt and Jimmy Goff all over the back of them, trying to get closer to the lead in Class D.
The Zermattens, meanwhile, wanted to help Jaco Swanepoel, but a bulky drive shaft wouldn't allow them.
I can't turn around here. Just go forward. No, you don't understand. I've got a drive shaft that if I turn it, it'll snap. That's what we've been battling with for 2 years now.
Next time, perhaps. Visser and LaRue were running the roost in Class E, looking for their second win of the season. And we continue right after this.
Vehicles from ABSA, going the extra mile to get you financed.
Back with a Nissan Sugarbelt 400.
And the defending national champ Duncan Vos was certainly making a fist of it too.
Yeah, but he wasn't going to get given anything on a silver platter.
Woolridge and Schothammer were chasing for all they were worth.
And Vos's teammate, Norway's Ivar Tollefsen, was still looking for a first win in the South African Series, so he wouldn't take his foot off the juice either.
But he had a right flat back. With the Eastern Cape 500 winner Mark Grenier having shed some body parts back on the road and firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, but Ollie, look at this trouble for Tollefsen and Jordan, who even trained for exactly this eventuality, a flat tire.
And it didn't cost them more than 3 minutes, but quite a few places.
Now Berthold was next, and watch Vermeulen playing rain tennis with his race notes.
Ah, the life of a navigator in an open cockpit.
The Mickerin boys were in the groove, and for this move went into third place as Jordan and Tollefson battled to replace that flat.
Sugarbelt and Hellberg came through next, their hidden number a testimony to some of the mud and slippery sections the competitors had already encountered.
Third in the specials was a handily placed Evan Hutchison and Achim Bergman in the motorized bat.
But roll, they were looking over their shoulders as Hunter and Alberts were doing just that, hunting.
Oh, but this wrong slot cost them valuable seconds, and in off-roading, everyone counts.
Alfie was still battling his predisposition to taking it too easy in the motorized SP.
But you have to say, it looked like he'd gotten on top of it.
Certainly, the Sugarbelts were up 3 places and their Zarko was asking for more rough stuff. With Marsh and Groenewald just 59 seconds behind and throwing everything at it.
And still their stablemates, Whitehouse and Carlson, in the second Regent Racing Bat, applying huge doses of pressure, exactly 20 seconds off and riding hard.
But they'd also taken 1 or 2 trips in the sugarcane. Look at their extra baggage. John Moore and Tom Claassen in their Free Spirit Chevette quietly worked their way into 8th place in the A-class and were superlative in their all-white car with all its camouflage on it now.
So now this time it was Visser and Badenhorst who had to replace a back tyre.
While Taylor and Houghton were certainly finding their feet right above the pedals of that big Castrol Toyota.
And Arnie, their stablemates were still working feverishly.
Back at the designated service point, though, it was Voss who pulled in first, warming the cockles of the Nissan Motorsport manager Glenn Hull's heart.
Voss was all business as he clambered out and headed straight for a watch. Any timepiece to check on time, and this 50-minute break before they would tackle the Eastern Loop over 120-odd kilometers.
Yeah, everything's fine, no problem so far. Car's good, there's no hiccups. Everything is perfect so far. No punctures, nothing. The car's great. So we just got to keep it together. I don't know where the guys are behind us, but we're going well.
Duncan obviously in racing mode, and the mask was on.
The Ford camp were visibly relieved when their Top Gun Woolridge brought her home next, exactly 4 minutes behind. The local man revelled in the conditions, albeit with caution.
Nice, tough technical route. I was, I don't know, just feeling a bit tentative today. I don't know why. In this first loop, just want to make sure we didn't get any punches or anything like that. And then this last loop, I think we made up a little bit of time, and then I made a silly mistake, and I went right off into the cane. So we battled to get out of the cane a little bit, so I think we've lost a bit more time. But the main thing is the car's fine, there's no problems. We know what to expect now for the second lap, and we'll go again.
And the top 3 was rounded out by Cronje and Birken, who brought the white, red and green SP home 9 minutes behind.
We had a bit of a rocky start this morning. We went out a straight piece of road in the grass. Somehow picked up a puncture, I'm not sure where, but we got the puncture changed and got going again, and then we picked up a fuel pressure problem. It kept cutting out, so it seems to have fixed itself miraculously, but we're pushing, so we'll see. We need to come back with some points. That's the plan.
Berthold and Vermeulen were the first special home at the halfway stage of the Nissan Sugarbelt 400 and had a ball out there.
It was going well. A couple of guys went off the road of the SP buckies. We started 7th, just behind all of them. 2 of them are gone. I think one of them was Tollefson, and the other one were Chris Visser went off the road, and another one was standing next to the road changing tyres. So we're going well. I think we're leading far. We're just keeping the pace and see if we can get to the end now. End of the first section, so we must do the same road again that we've done this morning. I think we can give it a clap.
Hutchison and Bergman arrived next, just more than a minute behind in the first of the motorized stables cars. And then Alfie Cox drove into DSP right behind his teammate. There were lots of casualties out there.
Not too eventful though. We've just sat in the same position. We've got quite a few people have broken down. Unfortunately, at the beginning of the second loop, our steering shaft seemed to be coming loose in my hands. I was pulling out of the dash, so it was a bit of a concern, so we had to back off a bit and try and push it in. So my arms are a little bit sore.
But the car's still good, and 1 lap to go. I think we're still in third. Well, who knows where we are with the corrected time. But we're still in the same place we started this morning, so far so good.
Cox knows the terrain, but was still surprised by how rough it was.
Typical Sugarbelt, you know, it's getting rough now as we get along, but a great race. I mean, we had a puncture where Hannes took his wheel off this morning, and you know, we lost a couple of minutes doing it, so we've had to play catch up. But 2 laps to go, the car feels strong, and I'm just going to bring it to the end.
A more positive man you've never met. Meanwhile, this is what's known as running repairs.
But when you're running too fast, you can get into trouble, as Mark Ferguson found out.
It was about 40 or 50 k's in, and we passed Terence Marsh, and then we wrong slotted, and we got in a tight forest section, and in the dust we came up to a very tight corner, and it turned 90 left, and we took it too tight, and it just kicked the car on its roof.
And can you still keep it going?
Sure, we're on our way now.
Another very positive thinker. As for Tollefson and Jordan, there was some rocking and rolling going on out there.
Actually, Arnie, it's more like rolling than rocking.
Okay, well, you tell them that.
The story is we rolled.
How did it happen, Ivan?
Driver's fault, didn't see the curve and went on the outside, and thought I had it, and then we flipped.
All right, now you've lost a lot of time. Can it all be fixed in time?
Yes, the car is nice, but we had the tow rope in the door which we were lying on, so we couldn't get it out until we borrowed a rope from someone else. Otherwise, we could have been there 20 minutes ago. So, car is no damage, just the pride.
At least Ivar is honest. Anthony Taylor was even more forthcoming.
You know, it's off-road. I ran out of road first, and then I ran out of talent and put it on its lid. What can I do? No, it was quite a slow roll. It was about the first one over here, just leaving the DSP was at about 20 k's an hour. Went a little bit sideways, got into a ditch, and it flipped onto its lid. Actually, just onto its side. And then the second one was about 20 k's from the end. It was a long sweeping corner, about 70 k's an hour. It wasn't that fast. And I went a little bit wide to miss a rock, and the back wheel got in down the sloot where the cane was, and it basically just dragged me across into the cane, and I didn't have anywhere to go. So there also, that was the second one, unfortunately. So yeah, it's the first time in my life that I've actually rolled a race car. It happens, it was bound to happen sometime, and they're going to put a new screen in now, and we'll carry on going.
And that's in a career which almost spans 25 years. Krobler had his own trouble.
Yeah, we in about 10 kilos in the first section. We got to like a rocky patch, and when we hit it, something broke in the front suspension, and the whole suspension came off in the front, and we had to do MacGyver tricks there to fix it again. And but we're going, and the guys are just making sure that the thing doesn't come off again and damage the car more. So we'll see after they fix it now. Then we're going to give it a go to the end.
It was a race of attrition. After all, the Nissan Sugarbelt 400 has a reputation for exactly that.
We struggled with the handling, and we came in and we checked the towing, and when we stopped, we checked for bolts and everything, and on the lower control arm, the one main bolt sheared, and that is what happened, and that threw out the handling on the car. And we just discovered it before we left, so it's quite a good thing. We wouldn't have made the next lap.
After the West Loop then, it was Voss and Pitchford enjoying a 4-minute gap over Woolridge and Schulthammer, while prologue winner Cronje and Birken were back in contention after a long stop.
And in the specials, it was Berthold and Vermeulen who were being chased by Sugarbelt and Helberg, with Hutchison and Bergman right in the thick of things. The racing continues right after this.
Vehicle and asset finance from ABSA. Going off the beaten finance from ABSA. Overcoming all obstacles.
Now at the front of the 2008 Nissan Sugarbelt 400, the third race in the ABSA Off-Road Championship, Duncan Voss and Ralph Pitchford were in control and shooting for a second win in just 3 races.
And looking well set to do it too, Woolridge and Schulthammer here.
That's after admitting to some tentative driving with throwing caution to the wind in the Ford Ranger almost 5 minutes back.
With Cronje and Birken producing a great fight back after dropping down to 5th before their fuel pressure problem cured itself miraculously.
of some pretty useful stuff. Berthold and Vermeulen were producing the drive of the day for the specials and showed that their prologue form could be reproduced on the road as well.
With Herman Silvalt and Paul Hellberg in their Zarco Magnum with its huge Chevy engine, were applying great pressure all the time, just 92 seconds behind now.
And now Hutchinson and Bergman in turn were just 25 seconds back and knew they had to race for dear life to pull it back.
Alberts and Hunter in turn were even closer, just 13 seconds behind and pushing the Raptor back for all it was worth.
Now sandwiched in between all these specials, it was Cox and Testeja who also decided to just go hell for leather.
The De Brains head into the viewfinder next, giving the Micra and Excel dealer team SB a full go on the Western Loop.
In fourth place in the specials, it was the father and son combination of Cully and Quinton Silvalt who were steady and quick.
And then Whitehouse and Carlson. Very steady and also very fast.
While the free spirit of Moore and Klaassen surprised and delighted the spectators, the privateers were giving some big-name teams a real run for their money.
And still rounding out the top 10. But for Duncan Foss and Ralph Pitchford, it was make or break time. They were leading by a fairly healthy margin.
Now, of course, the challenge is to find the balance between sensible racing and holding on to that lead.
Exactly. The dust was becoming a serious problem too as the route became churned up and chasing was tough.
It certainly was, and as you can see, this shot confirms it. You need to overtake, but the dust affects visibility so much that it can be silly to overtake at the wrong place.
It's all about timing, but that's what sport and motor racing is all about.
And the Castrol Toyota here, on a very solid diet of dust, cautions the watchword.
Berthold had done a great job of looking after the Atlas Copco Porter, yet getting a lot out of it.
Yes, indeed, while two-time champion Hutchinson is a master at driving right on the edge, but not over it, at least not often.
The Hunter-Alberts combination have been together for many a season, and it shows. They trust each other, and in car, it works.
And as for the Barkhazens, George and Sharon, and that proposition, well, they've no choice. They're married.
Quite clearly, Rold, you speak from experience, and that's what was behind the Rubicon Toyota, Shamir Variawa and Siegfried Rousseau. But after their earlier dramas, they were a long way behind the leading A-class cars.
Lots of experience. Now, Arnie, while Whitehouse and Carlson had put together a great first half of the last loop, and they'd gone by Marsh and Groenewald.
But unfortunately, their teammate Marsh had broken down.
Little unfortunate. Now, Moore and Klaassen were doing an outstanding job in 6th place in the specials.
The Silvalt-Hellberg combination were on their own mission to stay in the top 3, and they were heading that way with great rapidity. Is that a word?
Rapidity.
Yes.
Anyway, Arnie, Class P leader, the Adenko bat of the brothers Bezuidenhout, in complete control with a big time gap.
While Cully and Quinton Silvalt were holding their station in the Zarco, 5th in the special category.
Visser and Badenost were desperately trying to pick up a few places after their flat.
And were indeed doing just that. The Toyota faithful loved it. With single pilot Paul Bailey leading, the second Nissan was on its way.
Tollefsen and Jordan were way down in 32nd overall at one stage. But the Norwegian mountaineer and businessman was in a mean mood and just kept plugging away.
He's a man who drives very aggressively, but at the same time knows how to nurse the car home. Jan Kraai and Tito Vogt were leading Class B, but by a massive 16 minutes, they just had to keep it upright to win.
With Ferguson and West 7th in the SP class after a very eventful day in the cockpit.
Thompson and Blakey were still going strong too, and after their blast in the prologue were second in Class P. It was a fine drive from the two Dons.
They've certainly had a great day. Now, Cobus van Tonda and Rian Guelpo were at 6th in the SP class, and with the finish approaching, were all business.
And with their double rolls damaged clear to sea, Anthony Taylor and Robin Houghton were piloting their Toyota back to the paddock, going quickly at the same time. They were back up into 9th.
The second place Class B car belonged to Simon Beckett and Stephen Harris, who were 16 minutes behind.
And in Class C, it was Yanni Visser and Jops Leroux in their Hilux, who had just more than 10 minutes worth of breathing space.
Over this crew, Jack Peckham and Lucio Santoro in the Ford Ranger, who had slipped a few places on the run into the line.
The Buckhuizens were rock solid in their KZN campaign and kept the Rokon Toyota flag flying.
Yeah, Arnie, and spare a thought for Brandon Harkis and Richard Leake, who raced like mad for a finish even after their disaster so early on and took 9th place.
That is admirable. While Gil Nel and Dion de Kock were second in Class B and the Luke Zarko Truggy.
And in Class E, the third place was taken by a jubilant Dion Fenter and Ian Palmer in the 4x4 Mega World entry.
Minus some bodywork, but who cares? In the D-Class, Labuschagne and Gerber had no equals and were almost a half an hour ahead of their nearest challengers,
who just happened to be Christian de Ploy and Henk van Vuren in their Toyota Hilux. Yo, I tell you what a battler this man is. Hannes Grobler with Johan Moore kept plugging away to score some valuable championship points in the Nissan.
And while the Nissan fans held their arms aloft here,
they were doing the same at the finish line.
A superb drive from Duncan Voss with Ralph Pitchford at his usual pinpoint accurate best, and a 6-minute victory for the Nissan Navara crew.
Fantastic stuff. It was congratulations all round as the next car, the Ford Ranger SP of Woolridge and Schultheimer, came home. They were well beaten in second place.
It was a really important win for us. You know, we got a bit of a hiding in the last race, so it was important for us to have a good day, and we worked hard, we tested, we tried to identify where we were maybe a little bit slow, and we worked on those areas, and the pressure was on to have a good result, and luckily it all came together today.
And what about Hannes?
Yeah, I don't know what happened to him. He broke something on the first loop, which caused him, I think, an hour and a half delay to fix the problem, and he started just behind me on the road. So yeah, he hasn't had a good day, but you know, overall Nissan have had a good day, but you know, he'll definitely come back from that.
Cronje had his ups and downs and took third, but Woolridge was keeping his eyes wide open.
Yeah, look, a very close race in the SP class. The way it is now, you can't even blink and someone passes you. So it was very close racing, and I think we lost a little bit of time on the first loop this morning. Maybe I was a bit too tentative with it being wet, and with the new tyres I wasn't 100% sure of them, and we kind of like lost that minute, and we were just never able to make up that minute again. So kind of like kept the gap like that most of the day, and yeah, that's pretty much it. But it was a great event. The car was perfect, and no problems at all.
Cronje and the Ford team had a huge battle, and the dust probably won. As it was, they were 89 seconds back.
While other racers were just starting their second loop.
Yeah, we had a great race with Neil. It was a good scrap right through to the end. We had a bit of a problem in the morning. We got a flat wheel, and yeah, it put us a bit behind, but we managed to catch up nicely, and then got stuck in the dust, and then it was a hack from there, because you just can't see. There's just no way you can take any chances, and we decided that you know, the points are worth more than you know, the haste, so we decided to just get it to the end.
And now it all comes down to points on the championship log, doesn't it?
Look, I don't know exactly, but it's still very close. And at the end of the day, if you don't finish, I mean, the points jump from there is huge. So you've got to consistently finish. And you know, in past history, you don't necessarily have to win every event, but you have to consistently finish, and that's what brings the championship around. So we've got to carry on focusing on that and make sure that comes around for us.
In Class E, there was a big battle.
Ja, ons het baie lekker gery. Ons het om gejaag die hele dag, maar ons kon hom nie vang op die tyd nie. En toe ons uitgaan by die service, toe sy tyd nog dieselfde voor as wat hy nou vanoggend weggespring het. En so halfpad in die tweede lap en toe kry ons hom, toe staan hy langs die pad. Toe werk hy iets aan die bak, ek weet nie wat was fout nie. En so het ons maar die hele dag, toe het hy weer reggekom en hy het ons die hele dag gejaag. Gelukkig het ons geen probleme gehad nie. Ons het nooit uit die bakkie uitgeklim nie, so ons het lekker aangehad vir die dag.
The production car winner, a clear 6-minute win for the Nissan pairing. And that makes it 2 out of 3 for the Japanese manufacturer. But there were 4 Toyotas in the top 10, giving them the manufacturer's award.
And that big victory gave Vos the lead in his championship defense by 6 points. It's going to be a huge dogfight with Hannes Grobler lurking there as well.
It was a huge day for the other Japanese manufacturer Toyota, who have a narrow 9-point lead over Nissan in this battle, while Berthold was happy to be back in the winner's circle.
Tough day of racing. It was close racing. At no stage did they allow us to get a gap and just take it easy. We had to race the whole way to the line. But I must say, Atlas Copco have been fantastic, and really the people around me that have made the difference. I haven't changed much myself, but my mechanic, Kenny Veringer, has made a big difference, and having the 2 Parker brothers as a backup crew has just been phenomenal. It's just really made a lot of difference to the team.
Hutchison and Bergman pushed hard, but were almost 2 minutes behind.
A great result would have been first. Unfortunately, we took second place. I think it was close. I think we ended up about 30 seconds behind Gary. Unfortunately, we had a few little problems with our power steering, and we tried to push, but the harder we pushed, the more the problem sort of came to us. So we had to settle for second. Yeah, I'm happy with the second. First time we finished the race this year, so it's a few points in the bag, and we're going to have to put a whole lot more points in the bag before we can be competitive for the rest of the year. But yeah, happy with it.
A huge win for the Atlas Copco team, while Motorite will be happy to score opening points with Hutchison and Bergman. Moore and Klaassen surprised all in Sunday with a fine 4th place.
What that does, however, mean is that the Silverts have been installed at the top of the special championship log, with Marsh and Groenewald 4 points back. Berthold's win was worth gold in the title chase.
And it was a fine day for Nissan and Atlas Copco. The table has been set for some great racing ahead. There are still 5 dates you should jot down.
The Toyota 1000 Desert Race in the middle of June is our next date.
Following that, we're at Sun City.
And then Polokwane.
But until next time,
you keep it on the road.
And we'll keep it off-road.
That was the ultimate test, the ABSA Off-Road Championship. Now fast-track your